Okay, good morning, students, and welcome to the eighth semester. We're going to have this course again. Thank you. I'm so happy to share with you one more time in this semester a new class. The course is Competitiveness Module 8, and now we have this subtitle for this class that is Personal Development. And what type of topics we're going to learn this semester? We're going to learn about the different type of cultures around the world, about the society also, from our city, from our village, from our country, and also the societies around the world. Also, we're going to learn a lot of basic things like human nutrition. We're going to learn also about human preventive medicine. Also, we're going to learn in the third week about pathogens, immune system, antigens, vaccination. There's a lot of things that we're going to learn these semesters. Also, some easy things like how to figure a knot, how to tie a tie, and about the different type of cultures. We're going to learn about the English culture, Latin culture, German culture, Asian culture. We have a different type of culture that we want to learn, and we want to learn all of this because we need to get our company for different cultures and in different type of societies. So that's why it's so important. We still have our presentation. I'm going to send that in the Telegram group as we work last semester. We're going to work in the same way. At the end of the class, we have always our 5 questions. This is the homework for every week. So please answer this question because these questions also are part of our partial test. So welcome to this class. The topic for today is called Cultural Scheme of Society and its Condition for Economic Development. So welcome to the class. We're going to start just right now. We have some goals for today. Um, Provide tools to us as students to increase the possibilities of entering the labor and business market. This is the number one. Second goal, or the second objective, is take advantage of opportunities for professional self-improvement. And the main objective for today is learn about the different cultures and society in the world. You will see that culture cannot exist without a society, and society cannot exist without culture. We want to learn also these similarities, difference between culture and society, and also what they have related. Every week we're going to have some quotes like the one that I'm presenting you right now. Okay, these quotes are going to be related to the class. We have these three different thinkings. The number one was wrote by Walter Hampton that said culture is the name for what people are interested in, their toys, their models, the books they read, and the speeches they hear. So you see here, culture involves everything that we do, everything that we are. The second quote, wrote by Brainy Quotes, it says, a people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. This is something interesting also because if we don't know about our history, if we don't know about our origin, we don't know where we are. We don't know who we are. And the third one, that is an anonymous one, says, welcome to our society. You will be judged on what you wear, your taste in music, what you look like, what you say, and how you act. So this is a part of our society also because we all will be judged for whatever we do. Will be something good or something bad. Um, uh, Probably for something is good, for another people is something bad, but we all will be judged in our society. Okay. So we're going to start with some concepts about culture. And this is our first concept. Cultures, these are groups of people who share a common set of values and beliefs. This is a really simple concept of culture. People that share common values and beliefs that live in certain type of society. That's why these concepts are relative. They may also share cultural elements like languages, festivals, rituals, ceremonies, pastimes, food, and architecture. So, can you see all the elements that culture involves? We share a lot of things with the people that is near to us, the people that is in our village, in our city, in our country. We share different type of things. But what happens when we move to another place? We have to adapt the culture of these people. Okay, so remember that part about culture, that there is a group of people that share common set of values and beliefs. And what are these all these beliefs? The cultural elements like languages. Our country has a beautiful culture. We have a lot of dialects in our country, and this is part of culture also. The festivals, the way that we celebrate birthdays, for example, of the birthday of our city where we live, las ferias. Well, this is part of our culture. The rituals, our religion, all that we celebrate in Holy Week, for example, in Guatemala, is part of our culture. Our food is something special. Our tamales are part of our culture, and all this delicious food that we have in our culture. And you, like as you see, we have different type of food in depends in the place where we live. So we live in the west side of our country, on the east side of our country, or in the south or in north. We have different type of foods in every place. And also the architecture. So the buildings that we have in our city are part of our culture, our churches, buildings of law, buildings of government, schools, etc., and even our own house. This is part of our culture because this is a structure of the society in where we live. Okay, so we're going to clarify two different concepts and what represent culture and what represent society. Well, culture represents beliefs, practices, and artifacts of a group. And what represents society? Society represents a social structure. Okay, so remember that part. Culture, beliefs, practices, values. A society is a structure, and society represent a structure, an organization of the people who share all these beliefs. So society is a structure in where a group of people of certain culture live. So I want that you understand this part. It's not the same. Culture and society are not the same, but they cannot exist without each other. So culture cannot exist without society, and society cannot exist without culture. Okay, we have a classification of culture depending on different things, and I wanted you to understand this part about these types of classification. The first classification is according to dynamism. How could be the society? Well, the society can be static, but also can be dynamic. And how it is that? Well, this is basically means that culture interact and change. That what culture does. Okay, this basically means that culture interacts and change. Also, culture changes based on the current situation of our society. Culture continually restores itself, so it will remain relevant. And why is something static? Because there's some certain types of beliefs or things that we do, things that we our values has, that we always keep it. We cannot change that things. But also culture is dynamic. And why? Because emphasizes the changes, emphasizes something different things. Let me put you an example. After the COVID-19, we don't wear mask, for example, and now it's part of our culture because it's something that we are wearing every day. Okay, so you see how culture is with so dynamic. We have all these type of dynamics, and it could be static, but also can be dynamic. Okay, we have the second um, division of culture, and according to stability. We have here another concept. Okay, in here, the stable culture is the cultural partner that are satisfying to the group. So when a group is happy in where they live, and the group will look stable, people are satisfied with the culture. But what happens when the people are unsatisfied? Well, this culture turns in an unstable culture. Is where there's no clear content of direction, and also in a stable culture, many people in the group are not satisfied the way things are being done. So, according to stability, also culture can be stable or unstable. Okay, we have another division here. According to component. So, according to component, the culture could be material culture or non-material culture. And what is this about? We're going to have here, we have some example. In the material culture that are the tangible things, so the things that the men have done, consist of concrete and tangible objects like tools, implements, furniture, automobiles, books, buildings, dams, etc. These concrete and tangible objects are man-made, and this is part of material culture. Let me put you an example. Like in certain types of cities in Guatemala, we have taxis, for example, but in other places we have the tuk-tuks, for example. So this is material culture. Let me go to the non-material culture. This type of culture is an intangible things. Non-material culture consists of intangible things and abstract objects. This will include the costumes that we wear, the traditions that we have, the habits that we have in our city, in our village, in our country, the manners, the way that we act, the attitude, the beliefs, the religion, the literature, the art, the love that we have, the religion that we have. And here we have an example. So we have, for example, the Mayan law. Okay, this is something that is part of the non-material culture. So I wanted to check this part. Probably we don't have to think about that part of the culture in where we live, but it's something is that it's real and something that it's really, really important for us to know, to understand uh, how the people act, how the people is, how in what the people believe, and respect all the things, those beautiful things that all the people in our country and in the culture from other country has. Okay, in here also we have the functions of culture. Cultures also have functions here. Okay, the functions of cultures help us to being adapted to the environment. What happens when we go to live, when we move to another city, or probably we just have to move to another country? So we need to adapt to the environment of this place, to the culture of these people, to the belief of these people. Probably we need to change the way that we dress or the way that we eat. Uh, all these things we need to know because we need to adapt to the place where we live. Also, culture will help us to produce and distribute goods and services. So if we know how the people of this certain city is, we know what type of business we can do with these people. Also, culture maintain internal order. In here, there's a part of the values and beliefs of the people. Culture help to harmonize society. This is something really, really important. And also, culture provide a set of values and beliefs. And in here we have seven characteristics that functions of culture. Like number one, communication. Two, perception. Number three, identity. Four, value system. Five, motivation. Six, stratification. And seven, production and consumption. So you see all these things that culture does in our society and all the culture that help us. But also we have these functions that we have on the left side of your screen, because first of all, culture provide means of communication. So we have different type of languages, different type of dialects. This give us this way of communicate, and this is culture. Also, culture serves as a trademark or a special feature that distinguish one society from another. Like if you compare, for example, the next city in where you live is different. So culture is distinguish one society from the other one. Number three, culture helps individual fulfill his potential as a human being or acts as a social glue that helps to hold the people together. And this comes the society in this part. And also culture provide us education because we through the culture we know about the history, our heritage, about values, our traditions. That's why also culture provide us education. Okay, we're gonna to this second concept and this focus of the class of today about society. Okay, and what is society? Well, in here we have an easy concept. I know that all of you know what society is. It's a community of people living in a particular region and having a shared custom, laws, and organizations. To include the concept of culture in here, also we can say what is society is a community of people living in a particular region that share the same culture or similar culture. So you will see that's why it's so important, society and culture, because those are related. One cannot exist without the other. And in here we have the difference and also the relationships between culture and between society. Okay. Okay, just remember culture meaning information associated with social network, uh, and in our beliefs, our languages, our structure, all that we have is culture. And society is a system of interrelationship among people. So it's a system of culture that are in a society. Well, society is a very kind of similar concept to culture, but remember that this different societies is structure and culture has all these beliefs, meanings, values that we have. Society is defined as a system of interrelationships um, that connect individuals together. Society and culture are interdependent on each other and must both be present for order to exist. Remember, society. One way to remember the difference between these two concepts is that we apply our knowledge of culture in society. You see how interesting this last part is? Because tell us in in two lines the difference between this culture and society, because is what we know is the culture that we apply in when we live in a place. Okay, and the relationship between culture and society. Culture and society are coexistent. One does not or cannot exist without the other. Culture and society may have some common elements, but the two are not the same. They are not identical. The essential difference is that society is composed of people, what culture is composed of knowledge, ideas, customs, traditions, beliefs, institutions, religions, etc. So, this is how culture and society are related. Okay, so I hope that you get these two different concepts. What is the difference? How they are related. This is really important for this class to for you to understand this concept, the functions of culture, the function of society, how culture is divided, and how important is culture um, for doing business. If we know what the people want, what the people need, through culture, we can do business with these people. We can offer different type of services for all these people. So that's why it's so important. And in here we have the questions for this week. Remember that as a homework, you need to answer these questions. Every week, we're going to have 5 questions, and you need to answer this question. Just let me read this question. Question number 1. Are groups of people who share a common set of values and beliefs? Okay, you know the answer. Question number 2. What a culture represents? Number 3. What a society represents? Remember that we talk about the part? Well, and here you really have the answer. Well, no. Number 4, it's a community of people living in a particular region. Okay, what is this concept? Question number 5, it's a meaning and information associated with social networks. So here we have all this presentation for you. Also, we're going to have some videos about culture. We're going to focus on culture and society. In this semester, we're going to learn a lot about different type of culture. How is the culture in England? How is the culture in Latin America, in Asia, in Europe? And we're going to focus in different type of countries. You will see that probably something that in a country is normal for this group of people, for this society, is something that probably we're going to scare of doing in Guatemala. So there are different types of situations in society and also in the communities, in the countries that we live. And also it's important that we learn about culture and society from another places. So we don't know what possibilities we're going to have or what opportunities we're going to have in the future. That's why it's so important to learn about all these similarities and all this difference between culture and society. Okay, okay, let me stop the presentation. Okay, and let me share my screen one more time. Okay, okay, okay. Here we have also this article. Okay, and nowadays how we see the culture. So we have the internet, we have the social media, we have a lot of things that are changing our culture. Remember that in some of these division, we talk about that culture is changing, that all these variety of things, the way that culture change our lives also. So You think the culture is in the internet nowadays? Well, yes. Well, it makes sense to you. Remember that culture is the beliefs, the behaviors, objects, and other characteristics shared by groups of people. And we are sharing in the society, in the social networks. We have a society here, and we have certain type of culture right now. Like, for example, the emojis. The emojis is certain type of the new culture nowadays. All these platforms that we have, like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. All this is part of our culture right now, and you see how the culture is changing. Also, could we very say that we are influenced by the internet culture rather than an ethnicity or a society? There's a lot of influence right now in the social media, and this is part of our culture. So, can you think of any cultural objects, some culture plays that have significant value, like ceremonial artifacts? For example, there's a lot of people in Africa and certain places of Africa that wear a lot of rings, a lot of necklace, tattoos are part of culture also. But probably in some countries, some see the tattoos like a something good. But in something culture, there's a lot of respect for tattoos because it's part of these cultures. Here we have an example. For example, the Christmas trees in the Muslim culture, for example, they don't believe in Christmas. They don't celebrate Christmas. They don't put a Christmas tree, for example. So this culture, we need to understand. But the main thing is that we have to respect people, respect the beliefs, respect religions, respect everything. We have a lot of diversity around the world, and we have to respect each person about the beliefs, about what they think, about what they eat, everything. That is part of our culture. And this is another part that we have, the internet culture, the social media culture. We will really have that also. That's why it's so important that we see. Okay, I'm going to put the first video. We're going to see two videos today. So pay attention to these videos. We have a nice example with a cell phone, and we're going to compare with this cell phone the culture and society. Okay, let me put that. Okay, just give me 1 second.
Of people and culture.
Give me one moment. Okay, we have this.
Culture talks. Culture is
Here
the
we
way
go.
of life shared by a group of people, and it generally refers
Pay
to the
attention to
knowledge,
this
beliefs, and values
example
that
about
bind a
culture and
society
society.
together. So, culture is very diverse, and it may include things like artwork, language, and literature. And these ways of thinking and feeling and behaving, they're connected to a shared knowledge of a society, and they allow the members of that society to gain meaning from the objects and ideas around them. So, when we talk about society, we're referring to the way people organize themselves. So society is talking about a bunch of people who live together, usually in a specific geographic area. And these people interact more with each other than they do with outsiders. So society shares a common culture over time. So if you have an understanding of one of these concepts, you really should have an understanding of them both. So culture can be thought of as the rules that guide the way people live, and society can be thought of as the structure that provides organization for people. So to understand this relationship a little better, let's look at a phone. Now phones are pretty much just computers that we bring around everywhere and we use them for so many different things now. So there's a phone right here. And so society includes key parts called institutions, and examples include family, education, and politics. And these all meet basic human needs. So we can think of this as the hardware. So we can think of society as the hardware. So hardware is just anything physical that you can touch. So it's any physical device. So this would be the actual phone, maybe even your protective phone case. So these are things you can hold in your hand. Now, culture is a little bit different in a lot of respects. And as we said, culture provides guidelines for living. So we can compare culture to the software of our phone. So software is just a collection of instructions and code that are installed on your phone, and they cannot physically be touched. So we can think of these apps here as culture. I'll just draw an arrow to one of these apps. We can think of all of these apps as culture. So these apps. So just as a reminder, the physical phone is analogous to a society, and the apps are like culture here. So when we think about apps from when they were first being made to what they are capable of now, we know that they are constantly being improved, and oftentimes we get app updates where we get some new features or bug fixes. So this is similar to culture in sociology because culture is learned and it's transmitted and it's reshaped from generation to generation. So we can think of culture as constantly being updated. So most things you do on your phone require you to use apps. So without the apps, you would just have your physical phone. You would have no way to use it for anything. You would just be staring at a blank screen. So apps allow the phone to be useful, just as human ideas from culture allow society to work. So human ideas are big in culture, and they are what allow society to work over here. So the physical phone represents society because it provides structure. And software and apps represent culture because they provide the rules and input that make the societies run. You know, the apps are what make the phone run. So the big takeaway is that society is just organized groups of people, and culture is their way of life. So these two are not the same thing, but they cannot exist without each other. So just as a phone cannot function without apps, society cannot function without its culture.
Okay.
Culture is the way of life shared.
Okay, if you see here this example, well, this is a good example. Um, I find that I like it. And this is a good way to understand culture and society just with a cell phone. The cell phone is the structure, is all that we have in our society, or the buildings, the place where we live. This is society. And this is compared in this example with the structure of this cell phone. But what happened with culture? Culture is what we are, is what we believe. So it, like the is like the cell phone cannot exist without all these type of apps, all the type of software. It's the same thing, because this is all that the phone has, all the information that we have in our cell phone. This is the culture. This is just an example, and I want that you check this one. Also, we want to see a second video about or the overview of culture and how important is to understand all these people, and also, like I said before, the respect that we need to have for all these people in society. Okay, check that one.
Culture talks about the rules and instructions within a society that guide people and teach them how to live. So, with that out of the way, let's learn more about culture. Culture refers to the ideas and things that are passed on from one generation to the next in society. And culture includes many different things like knowledge, beliefs, and values, and it also includes language and customs. So, one important thing to realize is that culture varies as we travel across the globe. So in America, most of us use toothbrushes and toothpaste when it comes to cleaning our mouths, while in other regions, people use twigs from trees, believe it or not. And this is done in some African cultures. And what they do is they'll go to a tree and they'll break off some twigs, and on a certain half, they will soften a broken end, and then they'll rub the twig on their teeth to clean their teeth. So many people also sleep in beds, while others may sleep on tatami mats or even animal skin. So here's a picture of a tatami mat, and these are often used in Japan. I speak English along with a little over 500 million other people around the world, but also there are many different languages. So there are over 1 billion people who speak Chinese, and there are also over 480 million people who speak Hindi, and Hindi is the official language of India over here. And there's also over 400 million Spanish speakers around the world, and it is one of the official languages of over 20 countries, including Mexico, Argentina, and Spain. So also, many people like to eat meat and vegetables, while others eat tofu and grasshoppers. And you can see here, this is a picture of a bowl of grasshoppers. This is a special dish in another region. And also, another way cultures vary around the world is when you go to greet someone. So in the United States, proper greetings include a handshake, maybe a wave, maybe you could even say hello. But the greeting ceremony in Japan includes bowing, and the depth of the bow is defined by relative status. So each individual has to bow a certain way. So a person who is younger and of lower status must bow more deeply. And the proper greeting of many European countries calls for men and women to kiss acquaintances on both cheeks. So these are examples of how culture varies greatly across the globe. So this also shows how each social unit of people develops a unique way of life. And culture provides the guidelines for the actions and interactions within a society, as we've said many times. So as we just saw, this could include guidelines for how to greet people, for example. So there are four main points that I want to share with you about culture. So the first one is that all people share a culture with others in their society. So as mentioned before, culture provides the rules and expectations for carrying out your daily rituals and interactions. So from birth, we learn the patterns of behavior that are acceptable in our society. So a second point that I want to make is culture evolves over time and it is adaptive. So what is normal in hunter-gatherer societies would be very different from what is normal in the information age. So hunter-gatherers value cooperation and loyalty to the community because they are critical for hunting. And now in the information age, which is just the age of technology and the explosion of information on the internet, individualism and competition are encouraged, and they are what is required to enhance one's position and well-being. So the creation of culture is ongoing and cumulative. So societies build on existing culture to adapt to new challenges and opportunities. So your behaviors and values that are seen as normal to you are actually shaped by your culture. Culture is so much a part of life that we may not even notice behaviors that outsiders may find weird. So for example, you may not think anything about putting a baby in a crib, but in other countries, they may find that strange. For example, in Finland, babies sleep in padded baby boxes that are issued by their government. So this again shows how greatly culture differs around the world. Also, a final point I want to make is that culture is transmitted from one generation to the next. So this talks about how we teach a way of life to the next generation. So humans are the only mammals with culture that enable them to adapt to their environment so they can survive on both the equator and even in the Arctic. So that's just a more in-depth look at culture. Society is a group.
Okay, like we learn in this video, it's really important because we need to understand. Probably we never have think about that part. How important is culture for people, and how culture will be transmitted generation through generation. Culture is easy to understand sometimes, but sometimes it's hard to understand. So we need to have an open mind and respect all the beliefs that the people in certain type of the country and certain type of the world have. Like all these examples, like we see in here, about the people in Africa, how they brush their teeth just with some leaves and tooths from a tree. This is just a good example. We use a toothbrush, we use a toothpaste, but in Africa, they use different things, and they think that is the right thing. Every people think that the beliefs that they have is the right belief. That's why we need to understand and we need to respect all this diversity that we have, all of these beliefs that we have in our culture, the different type of culture that we're going to find around the world. And it's important that we understand that through the knowledge of culture and the knowledge of society, we can offer different type of products to do business with these people. And we have to respect these people because probably these people are going to be our customers, it's going to be our clients. I hope that you will understand and you will check this part. I'm going to send all the information in the Telegram group. And I hope that you have a great day. It was my pleasure to share this class with you today. This is how the class is going to be this semester. Going to be some type of different than the last one, but we're going to learn a lot of important things. That's why it is called personal development. We're going to develop a lot of things that we need to know as a professionals. So thank you so much for your attention, and I hope that you have a great Sunday and a great week. Bye bye. Thank you so much.